That's our president, John Connor, and Steve Maynard's our first vice president.
Wait, Ron, it hasn't advanced.
It doesn't?
Yeah, we're just seeing your welcome to GAMUG thing.
Okay, hold on.
There you go. Now I can see the third slide there. There you go.
And I'll just do that. Okay. Um, well, I mentioned John and Steve and Glenn, who you've seen. I'm Ron Miller, I'm the secretary. Alan Thorpe's our treasurer, and I also do the club finances. Here's our treasurer's report. Zoom went up $10 this past month, so it's inflation, I guess, for everybody.
Yeah.
Our current membership is only 23 people. We have 2 renewals this month.
Yeah.
I'm sorry, what?
Wait, I can't hear you.
Coming there. I have to know where you are first. So when I call out to you, then I know where you are.
Okay.
Instead of talking and you're downstairs, okay? Okay. I have to know.
Steve
you're gonna be
April,
in here.
please mute yourself.
Somebody mute their
Okay. Starting
cells.
now, you mean?
Yeah.
Oh, okay. Well, I wasn't sure. I'm glad I asked.
Okay.
Okay.
Steve April, please mute yourself.
Okay, we have a membership rewards program that concludes tonight. At the end of the program, we'll do a drawing. This is our general meeting today, and of course, you know the extent of it. And that's our last slide. Let's see. Oh, there we go. Okay. Since we don't have our preview about the iPad today, then Glenn, you're going to do the goodies, right?
Well, I maybe we could ask if anybody else. I know Robert kind of jumped in and told us his impressions of his new iPads. Anybody else have any new stuff that they want to share their impressions with, or anything you've gotten recently you'd like to tell us about?
Which
No
new iPad are you talking about? You talking about the latest M4 iPad?
Yeah, it was the M4, the new M4 13-inch with the Pencil Pro and the Magic Keyboard.
Is it yours?
Yes.
Are that's the first. Did you get the cellular or the Wi-Fi model?
Just Wi-Fi.
Those who buy the cellular model, that's the first one where there's no SIM card slot. They did that 2 years ago to the iPhone in the US, but not in the rest of the world. But this year, they ripped out the SIM card slot for the entire world on cellular iPads. That's eSIM only.
Yeah.
Yeah, that would be expected since they have done that for a while with iPhones.
So do you think actually for the iPhone 14 and the iPhone 15, it was only the American models that had the SIM card slots ripped out. Every other country's model still had the SIM card slots all the way up to the 15 Pro. I wonder if they're going to rip out all the SIM card slots this year.
Wouldn't
Probably
surprise.
potentially.
Which is actually a nuisance for people who travel, who are going to pick up a local SIM easily, and just swap the SIM card.
All right. Anybody have any other things that they want to share before we move on? I'll move on to our goodies otherwise.
Just to expand a little bit upon what Terry was saying, I have a 14, and that was my first experience of not seeing the slot. And but I was also told and learned that there is a primary SIM card that you would use for wherever you lived, whoever your local standard provider was. But if you wanted to go elsewhere, that there is a second eSIM card in there automatically. And all you have to do is assign it, at the office that you have to stop in to register at. And it'll work.
Whereas, if you had your permanent carrier on the eSIM slot and you could just pick up a local SIM card when traveling and not necessarily have to deal with customer service of the remote carrier when you're traveling.
But they don't have a SIM card slot anymore, so there is
if you buy your phone in Canada, it has almost the same radio bands as here in the USA, and you get a SIM card slot.
well, I'm not going to spend an extra $1,000 just to go to Canada. So I'm happy with the idea that there are 2 SIM cards in the phones. At least start with the 14.
All right. Well, I'm going to move on then. And I will start my goodies here. Let me share this with you. And this was originally, can you guys see that?
Yes.
Okay. Originally, I actually had this ready to go for May, and we changed gears. So now my May flowers became June flowers. So, and I took out I had to take out a few of the news items in there because I was like, oh, well, we're now like, a month and a half down the road from that stuff. So it's not very pertinent anymore. But the first thing that I'll share with you guys is this was from back in, it was actually, I think it came down in April, but I thought it was interesting that the FCC fined AT&T, T-Mobile, and Verizon for illegally sharing customer location data. And, I think about this because you hear all these companies talk about privacy so much, and I'm like, call me a cynic, but I don't really necessarily believe it. I mean, I have more faith in Apple than a lot of these companies, but, so many of them, I think say, oh yeah, we're keeping your data private. And, it's generally not the case. And so they were fined $196 million collectively for illegally selling access to customer location information without the customer's consent. And so this has actually been under investigation for 5 years. The FCC began investigating them in 2019. And so they finally just handed down this fine. But so if you're with one of those companies, I mean, I don't worry about it too much, but you might want to look into it. Anybody here, have anybody gotten a new physical Apple card recently?
Yeah, I just did get one.
Yeah, I got mine in the mail the other day, and I have never used the physical Apple card, but I have one. And so, well, when I put this together, Apple was getting ready to ship one, and so they're actually shipping them. So if you use the Apple card, you actually have a physical Apple card. You should be getting a replacement card for that. And I thought it was interesting that they sent a little box. You could take your old one and send it back to them free of charge so they could recycle it. I chose to do it the old fashioned way and cut mine up. Don?
Who supports it? Is it still MasterCard, or did they switch over to?
No, it hasn't changed. It's still a MasterCard through who is it? Barclays, I believe. Is that
Is
correct?
the new card sent automatically?
If you have a physical card, it should be, yes.
The new
And
one's-
does it look the same as the old one, or does it look different?
No, it
That's
looks
exactly
exactly
the
the
same.
same.
It just came in this little thing with the Apple embossed, and then you
Yeah.
How
open
do you,
it
how
up
do you
and
cut up a metal
here it is right
card?
there.
How do you cut up a metal card?
Well, I've got all kinds of tools around here. I just go in my workroom back here. I got all kinds of things that can destroy stuff. So,
Let your dog play with it.
so anyway, so if you, like I said, if you have, if you got a physical card to begin with, you will be getting another one. I think, correct me if I'm wrong, if you got, I don't even remember, it's been so long now, but I think you could have opted out and not got the physical one when you first did it. Is that correct? Somebody know?
I haven't
Yeah,
seen
you
it.
don't have to get the physical one.
Yeah, that's what I thought. It's been, a while, so I couldn't remember that now. And so I guess I did. I mean, now if I were doing it for the first time, I wouldn't get the physical one because I got that thing and I put it in the drawer and I've, haven't used it since. So it just sits in there. But I guess at the time I was used to using a physical card. It was for now I try to use my watch for everything I can. So I find it inconvenience when I actually have to pull out my wallet now.
Yeah,
Yeah,
Glenn?
I agree. You need to, I carry mine around all the time in case somebody doesn't have, Apple Pay.
Yeah.
And still make a purchase through the Apple system for whatever amount of money it is. And I love watching every day when it comes up and says, you earned this much more money in your Apple Cash account. Mine got up as far as about $500, and it really helped me out one time when I needed it.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Glenn?
Yes, Steve.
Yeah, I got the Apple physical card. It'll be 5 years this August
Yeah.
because I thought it was cool to have. Actually, I would recommend not getting the physical card if you haven't gotten one yet. It only pays 1% on non-Apple purchases. It'll pay 2% when you use it through Apple Pay, which is not the physical card, and you get 3% when you buy things from Apple. The only time I've used it once total, and then I put it away in storage. The only time I would recommend getting it is if you're going to travel overseas, because there is no currency conversion fee with Apple Card.
Okay.
And if you're in a place that does not accept Apple Pay, then you can whip out the Apple Card and it'll only pay 1%, but you save with the conversion fees from whatever country you're in to US dollars.
That's a real good tip about traveling, but
Yeah.
I'm in favor of using the physical card because there's no numbers on it and it's encrypted from the point of sale to, Apple has the encryption automatically, and my other credit cards I don't trust them as much.
The virtual card in your wallet on your phone, it is also encrypted. I mean, it is virtually impossible for somebody other than you to
Well,
get in.
I most shop places that you don't, because a lot of places don't take they don't have Apple Pay.
Yeah. Well, any place that doesn't take Apple Pay, I end up using a different card because I get more points back.
I do the same thing, Steve. And I can't, there's really not too many places I go these days that I can't use Apple Pay with. So
That's
like I
right.
said, I laugh at myself, but I almost find it inconvenience when I have to reach into my pocket and pull my wallet out to use that instead of my, watch. So, all right. I don't know how many of you guys remember this story. Back in January, there was an Alaska Airlines flight and the door flew off the plane. It was big news. So I think most of us have heard about this. And I did something a while back in my goodies about somebody's phone flying out, and they actually found it. So I'll kind of read a little of this to you in case you haven't heard it. Ever since a door plug flew off an Alaska Airlines flight midair in January, the world has waited an answer to the big question: how did that iPhone survive? And so they basically found this person's iPhone. Someone found it by the side of a road. Yes, when the Boeing 737 MAX 9's fuselage ripped open, a smartphone flew out and tumbled down 16,000 feet. The iPhone 14 Pro Max was found completely unharmed. Yet your phone's screen turned into a spider web when you accidentally nudged it off your bathroom counter. Was it because a protective case cocooned the airborne phone? Was it because it was a newer, more durable unit? Was it rescued and repaired by a family of bears? Every year, Apple, Samsung, and other smartphone makers tell us about their improved durability, ceramic shield, Gorilla Armor, and still the first thing we do with the shiny new phone is shove it in a case. Do we still need to? Perhaps we should all go naked? There's only one way to find out. Make it rain phones. And this was from a woman named Joanna Stern, who writes for the Wall Street Journal. And so I'm going to tell you what they did, and I'm going to show you a little video here. My producer and I created the phone drop and drone, trademark pending, and set out to drop iPhone 14 and Samsung Galaxy S23 devices from 330 and 300 feet onto grass and asphalt. It was thrilling, and the results taught us as much about physics as they did about phone durability. Let's break it down. Phones. I bought an iPhone 14 and Galaxy S23 models from a refurbished device company back in the box, which confirmed the original hardware was intact. No screens or batteries had been replaced. While not the latest model, these phones use top-of-the-line Corning glass and represent the latest durability claims made by Apple and Samsung. Space. A 300-foot drop required landing zones of grass and asphalt and no innocent passerby. Thankfully, New Jersey's beautiful Sussex County Fairgrounds fit the bill. Drone. My smartphone testing desire has no limits. So yes, I considered dropping the phones while skydiving, but a drone gave us more control for hitting specific heights and targets. My producer turned MacGyver, David Hall, rigged a contraption to release phones with the press of a button on the small drone controller. Carnage. You aren't tuning into this to see phones survive and look pretty. You want shattered glass, and you'll get shattered glass. These phones didn't give in so easily, though. And here I have the video of this for you guys.
So what happens when you drop an iPhone 14 from 300 feet? Release! Oh my gosh, it's falling, it's falling. All right, here it is. Moment of truth. We'll get to what happened. But first, remember when
that Alaska Airlines flight that lost part of a door plug, a piece of the plane coming off at 16,000 feet.
Well, along with that door, out flew a passenger's iPhone, and it was found on the side of the road perfectly fine. How is that possible? Was it the case? Improved phone durability? A miracle? There was only one thing to do. Get a bunch of iPhone 14s and Samsung Galaxy S23s. They're all powered on, and load them up in our very own phone dropping drone. Trademark not registered. Safety first. The first set of tests were all done over grass at New Jersey's Sussex County Fairgrounds. And yes, I used iPhone 14s and Galaxy S23s. They're not the latest models, but they represent the latest durability claims by Apple and Samsung. I dropped each phone, naked, no case, from 3 feet, 30 feet, and 300 feet. The first, that's it. Next, we fired up the phone dropping drone with this contraption built by my hero producer, David Hall. It releases the phone from this pouch when he activates the landing lights. So he flew up to 30 feet and release. iPhone in perfectly good shape, other than some grass stains. Same thing for the Samsung at 30. Camera's still on, and not even a grass stain. Finally, we went on up. iPhone 14, 300 feet onto grass. Where is it?
Mm-hmm.
Ah, it's fine. Yep, it's just some dirt in the crevice of the camera. No screen crack. Landed on some pretty firm ground here. This is definitely not light grass. And again, same thing for the Galaxy S23 at 300 feet. It's coming down. It's coming down. There it is. A nice little tuft of grass right here. I was amazed it didn't break from that high up. But what happens when it lands on something harder? So I repeated all those tests on asphalt. Release. Yep, there's a dent in the corner on the edge, but the screen is fine. Similar, just nicks in the corner. So up to 30 feet we went. Thoughts and prayers, iPhone. Holy crap. The screen is fine. The back glass cracked. And also the camera is kind of nicked there. And then we did the same with the bye-bye, Samsung. It was nice knowing you. Oh boy. Oh, got my gloves on for this one. Crack in the front top left of the screen. Crack in the bottom right of the screen. Time to make the case for a case. Sorry, everyone.
Yeah, when I did that same 30-foot drop with an OtterBox Defender case on a new iPhone 14
Phone is good. Case just kind of came off there a little bit.
and a new Galaxy S23,
That didn't sound good. It's okay.
everything was totally fine. The case does a lot of what the grass does. It absorbs the impact and allows for a slower deceleration of the fall. It also helps with,
So if you hit your phone on a corner, it's gonna have a very small contact area and more likely to break. If you hit it on the flat surface, the contact area would be larger.
but not even an OtterBox Defender case could help when dropping from 300 feet onto asphalt.
That hit pretty hard. Oh, man. Screen's fine. Totally fine. Glass covering the camera, completely shattered. But actually, camera still works.
Sad days for Samsung too,
There it goes.
which seemed to land directly on its right corner and bounce a second time on the surface.
Oh, man, the case is cracked. Phone just won't turn on. It's definitely bent here. It's a bendable phone, but yet it doesn't work anymore.
Okay, so we proved that landing on grass is your best bet. But you're probably thinking, that isn't actually a phone falling out of a plane at 16,000 feet. Except, well, it's sort of the same.
Here's the dirty trick. It doesn't matter if you do it from space or about 300 feet up. It's the same result because of something called terminal velocity.
Yes, I called up Mark Rober, a former NASA mechanical engineer turned YouTuber, who has successfully dropped an egg from space.
Let's say when you drop that phone, at first gravity's pulling it down, the force. It's going faster and faster. But there's another force that opposes that, and that's what we call drag. So at some point, what happens is you go fast enough, the force of gravity pulling down equals the force of that drag. It's like a tug of war that's now tied. And at that point, because it's tied, you keep going at that same speed.
And I got some help calculating the actual terminal velocity of a smartphone.
I got 27 meters per second, which is about 60 miles per hour for a phone.
So, what did we learn from dropping all these phones today?
Physics is cool. Yes, phones have gotten more durable too. Even 30-foot drops onto asphalt didn't destroy these phones. But yeah, if you happen to drop your phone out of an airplane, make sure it lands on grass.
Just get a case, really. It's the end.
Little hard to do.
So what happened?
You know, I just thought it was kind of fun. I had followed that story and everybody was trying to figure out, oh my God, this phone survived a drop out of an airplane. And then I saw this and I thought it was kind of fun. And I was thinking, not that I really want to go out and spend a bunch of money to buy phones, but man, I was thinking, how fun would that be to get send them out on drones and let them go flying down? I'd be flying them all over the place and dropping them and see what they survive. So nothing else. I think it was kind of amusing, but all right, moving on. So we have some people here who are fans by any chance of the Apple Plus TV show For All Mankind. I know I'm a big fan of that. I don't know if we have anybody else's. Well, they announced they're coming back with another season for it, and they're creating a spinoff that is called Star City. And so the spinoff is going to be about basically the Russian/Soviet Union space program that's headquartered at Star City, and that's located outside of Moscow. And so it's going to be kind of about their perspective of the whole space race, from what I can understand. So I'm looking forward to that. That should be interesting. So if you're a fan of All Mankind, it might be something you want to check out here in the next couple of years. I don't know when it's coming out exactly. All right. I came across this last month. This guy was using his Vision Pro to watch the Masters. And I thought it was kind of interesting just to see, well, how did this enhance his viewing pleasure? And so I came across this and he said the Masters Tournament experience on the Vision Pro is a hole-in-one. You can watch up to 4 video streams at once, check out each hole in 3D, and it comes with the iconic leaderboard. So here's a little video of him watching it.
And you've got to take that hill shooting for a birdie with 37 feet to the hole.
Huh.
No. Yeah, really.
The 5th hole, Magnolia, 400 and, oh, this,
big slice to the right. This needs to get down.
I think you already asked Lance for another ball.
The right distance, get up the hill. Excellent.
Going back for the tee. Oh, man.
Good. I'm glad they let him get in a golf cart.
And that's not just for Tiger. That's
No,
for
that's
pace of play. Tom Kim here at the fourth. Good line.
excellent.
I like the 3D scoreboard and the 3D view of the hole. I thought that was those are really cool things. I mean, I know you can look at that stuff on your phone, but to actually see it there in 3D, I thought was kind of cool.
I like it.
All right. So I don't know if you guys know, but you can create PDF files on your phone from the Notes app. And there's a lot of times that I'm working in Notes on different platforms, but on my iPhone, it's kind of nice to share those rather than just trying to email the note, especially if you have people that are non-iPhone users. And so it's really not that hard to do. And so here's a little walkthrough. So first, you just find a note you want to, convert to a PDF, and you press the share button that's up there on the top right corner of the screen, the little box with the arrow coming out of it. And once you do that, you're going to select markup from your share menu. The little share menu drops down, you select markup. If you don't find markup in your menu, then you need to scroll down to edit actions at the bottom and simply add that. You're probably going to get an error that says unsupported file format on your screen, but if you just wait 2 or 3 seconds, that'll disappear and the PDF will appear. And then you just hit done at the top right of the screen. You'll see the little done thing right there. You just hit that. And then you just simply save the file to on your drop down menu there. And you can just, you could save it to the phone, but you can use iCloud to choose wherever you'd like to save it. And I'll show you this, a little video here of how I did this. If you go to notes, find a note that you want to use, hit the little share button up at the top, and then you're going to find markup on the menu down there. You click markup, you see it says unsupported. Wait a few seconds, that will eventually disappear. And now you've got the PDF, and then you can save the file. And if you go into iCloud, you can, save it wherever you want in iCloud. And that way, if you want to have it on other devices or however you want to send it, you can do it, and it's saved as a PDF. So it's really that simple. Okay, I came across this little charger that I thought was pretty cool, the SharGeek Retro 67 charger. So if you're a bit nostalgic for an old time Mac, they have this charger that looks like the classic Macintosh, and you can actually charge 3 devices at once. And the charger will show the output on the charger screen. So the standard charger, I've seen sales on this, but it lists for $49, although I've seen it for $39 at times. But if you want the travel version with adapters, then it costs $59. And I've got, I was going to show you here just a couple quick little videos about it. Just to show it to you. I've got this other quick little video of a guy using this.
Today I'm toying with a pair of tiny Macs, which are also the best USB-C travel chargers I've ever seen. The Charge Retro 67 puts out 67 watts and also does this cool matrix animation. That's not the important part. It's that this palm-sized cube has more power than a 61-watt Apple charger, 3 times the ports, and a dot matrix screen, so you can make sure gadgets are charging well. 54 watts for my gamepad, Z Flip, and Steam Deck. Full 67 watts for a laptop, but even then, the charger plays nice with other gadgets plugged in as well. There's nothing on the market this small that can do this much, and while the Retro 35 is smaller still, the single port and brighter LED make it less suitable for my hotel room or bedroom. At $50 on sale, it's not the cheapest, but I'm buying one for myself. Today
So
I'm toying with a pair
it's
of
a
Tiny Macs.
cool little travel charger. I haven't bought it, but I've toyed with the idea of getting one if I'm in need of one. And I think it's kind of cool, just the look of it all.
Question, Glenn.
Yeah.
It said that it has attachments for like going to the UK. Did they come
Yes.
or do you buy them separate?
There's 2 different versions, and it's $10 more to get the adapter kit with it.
Okay, yay.
Okay, I came across an app. I've kind of thought about maybe purchasing, but I have not done so yet, but it interests me. It's called Unclutter. And so it basically helps you organize your Mac menu bar where you can store items to use. And they do have a demo period of this. And for a lifetime license, it costs $19.99. And so here's a quick little video about it. So I thought it looked interesting way just for productivity using your menu bar to kind of be a little more productive and not have to go find different applications and stuff. So something I've thought about purchasing perhaps, but anyway, looked interesting. I thought I'd share that with you guys.
But Glenn,
Glenn,
Yeah.
do you know how to optimize your sharing for what turns out to be music, even if it's a voice thing?
What do you mean? Like you want to send somebody a music file?
No, where you want to show us something that is partially music so that we can hear it. That
Oh,
was
you
new
couldn't,
to me. It was terrible.
you couldn't hear the music on there?
I heard chatter.
Okay. Well, it was just music. There was no talking or anything like that.
Well,
So
before you actually click on what you're going to share in the share box, there are a couple of places where you check to optimize for sound and video. And once, if you forgot to do that and you've already done it, you can go up to your working bar for sharing, and there should be a spot with an ellipsis in it, and in there you will be able to optimize for sound and video, and you just click on it and you can do it.
okay.
Glenn,
Yeah.
just to mention, Unclutter is also part of SetApp.
Yes, yeah, I'm aware of that. And for those of you who don't know, SetApp has a whole number of different apps in there that you can purchase as one bundle. And I think I've actually the reason that I got an email originally about Unclutter is because I bought a couple of the other apps from the maker of SetApp, but I've never bought the whole bundle. I'm going to skip over this little video I have, but I don't know if you guys, it's kind of sprung up in the last couple of months. I don't know if any of you have tried these game emulators on your iPhone, but this one I have used. It's called Delta. And if you want to give it a try, it's kind of nostalgic. I've been playing some old video games. Just the other day, I was playing Frogger on it. And so basically, Delta is not the only emulator out there, but there are some game emulators. And you go find these little files from Nintendo, Game Boy, and these different systems that now you can play these games on your phone. And it's kind of fun. Like I said, I was sitting there playing Frogger the other day. Hadn't played that in decades. But there is a learning curve with it because you got to figure out where do you go out and find the ROM files to use. But we're got a lot to do tonight, and so I'm going to skip over this, and I'll probably trot this back out at a different meeting and show this in my goodies. But if you look up Delta Game Emulator and look up how to load game files, you can find the information. It's kind of fun.
Game emulator.
All right. By the way, talking about Vision Pro, I have two little things left I want to show you. This guy, he was trying to figure out how many windows you can get open in a Vision Pro, and he said 38 is what he hit. And you'll see here as he goes around the room opening all these different windows with his Vision Pro. And I thought it was kind of interesting to see how he did this.
See me there, yeah.
Do you think the limitation is the limitation of the M2 Pro, or is it a limitation in the headset?
That's a good question. My guess is that as we probably get more powerful chips, you'll probably be able to have more windows open. But who knows? We're still so much in the infancy of this whole Vision Pro thing. But I would think that just having all those windows open around you, get dizzy after a while moving around.
I would think it would come in handy for some of these chess grandmasters that are doing multiple games of chess.
There you go, Charlie. That would be great.
Well, it occurs to me 32 is a nice round number and powers of 2. So,
well, this guy said he was able to get 38 open.
Oh, 38. Well, that's a non-round number. Well,
yeah. Who knows? All right. And the last thing, I saw this little comic and I just thought it was kind of funny because I can't tell you how often are we on a Zoom call where somebody wants to join us. Wait, are you there? No way, we can't hear you. So I just something that kind of amused me as I saw it. So there you go, guys. There are my goodies for this month.
Thanks, Glenn.
I wanted to make a comment when we were talking about the Otter boxes. Last month we were in Fort Collins, Colorado for my granddaughter's graduation, and the Otter box Otter company has got a retail store in Fort Collins, Colorado. It's the only store in the country, and it's kind of neat to go into it. And they have every imaginable Otter box you could imagine. So it's kind of a treat. If you're ever in Fort Collins, Colorado, stop by the Otter box store.
That's interesting. I would have never imagined they even had a storefront.
Only one, just one.
All right, Ron, I will turn it back over to you and we can start talking about WWDC.
Okay. Hopefully you let me know if you see or hear anything. Do you see that screen?
Yes.
Do you still see it?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay. How about this one?
Oh,
Still the first screen.
Yeah, nothing changed.
Okay.
I'm surprised the OtterBox folks didn't call their store the Otter Limits.
they call it the Otter Shop. Yeah, evidently the OtterBox people, the company was formed there in Fort Collins. That's where they
Yeah, that's
started.
what I assumed, yeah.
Hmm.
Okay. I'll just have to, I can't make it jump to each screen, so you see that one?
Yeah.
First one.
Okay. How
Yeah,
about this?
when you click on it, we see it change.
Okay. This is it actually like an hour and 43 minutes yesterday morning, or actually noon here in St. Louis. Anyway, mostly went for the OSs. And so I'm going to kind of just go in that same order as the things that we said. Vision OS is the first thing they talked about. It's Vision OS 2. And the one thing that jumped out at me is it has a new thing that can do a screen like kind of a floated around and that didn't happen before. So maybe that 38 screens he did would be different now in the new OS, which will come out this fall.
I like the look of that though, Ron.
Yeah, me too. That's when I thought, well, that'd be really kind of cool. Like surrounded by screens. This is OS. I don't really paid attention to because I don't really have one, and I don't know if any of us still have one, but maybe in the future, who knows? But
Ron, I do have a quickie question.
yes,
Can you change the transparency while you're looking through the goggles or whatever? So that as you're walking around your house, you won't stumble over a stone.
Ron, I'll answer that because I've done the demo with it. Yeah, you can change the transparency.
Cool.
Yeah, you can go total immersive if you want, or you can have it so you can see through stuff.
Thank you.
Is the when they come out with this update, is it something where you update the firmware and the glasses themselves, and then is there a separate, if you will, a driver or daemon that runs on your computer as well? In other words, is it a two-part solution, where part of it's in the viewing device and the other part's in the hardware it runs on? I mean,
that's a good question, Peter. Does anybody here have one?
Yeah, I don't, or I'd answer that question already, I guess.
Yeah, I don't know because I've done the demo, but I've never thought to ask that question. That's a good question.
I mean, I think there's a lot of processing power in the goggles themselves, but obviously, but I wonder, how do they share the workload?
you'd have to kind of go to an Apple store and try them out, then ask the question to the people.
Yeah.
Do you see the Vision OS preview here?
Yes.
Yeah, that's from Apple's webpage. And it just talks about all the different things that are new in the OS 2 or Vision OS 2, I should say.
Ron, go back up to the gestures there. I like that gesture. They had to look at her when she goes palm up like that. And
yeah,
so
those are new.
Yeah, and then she'll turn her
Palm
hand
down and palm up.
So I thought that was just smart, simple gestures. The biggest thing that jumped out at me, Ron, as I was watching this is talking about taking, the spatial videos on your phone. And I actually got asked that the other day, do I want to take spatial video? And I just declined because I didn't have a need for it. But has anybody else gotten that request on their phone?
No.
No.
Yes, I have, but like you, Glenn, I declined because I don't have a Vision Pro.
Yeah. So that was something that was interesting that jumped out at me. That you could, I knew with the 15, and I thought it was just the 15 you can do that, but
Like I said, I used these and pretty much really didn't pay attention to, because it really doesn't apply to anything that I actually own.
I kind of thought of this update. They call it, Vision OS 2, but I sort of wonder if it's not really more like a 1.5, because it sort of feels like they're still just trying to bring everything online to use with this. And
yeah, that's true.
There was one other thing that jumped out at me was their travel mode. If you guys look on the screen here, over on the left-hand part there, can you guys see where it says travel mode on trains? And I thought that was interesting that they're differentiating between like being in a train or a plane. And I'm not sure exactly why they needed to do that, but I just noticed that and thought that was very interesting.
It's interesting. I wonder what does that do for you? I mean, when you look out the window, for example, does it identify where you are or the things you're seeing, or what does it do?
Yeah.
And the thing is, trains travel on sort of predictable, they travel on tracks. And so what their path is, and it's also pretty smooth and linear. Whereas if you're on a bus or a car, it's kind of rather more chaotic, right? So I just wonder, like why I'm with you. Why trains? I mean, planes are up high in the sky, and so there's not much to see up there really.
Well, I wonder, Peter, if you're not onto something there, that as you're looking out that window next to you and things are whipping by really fast, if it needs to do something to compensate for that. Because like I said, you can look out the window of a plane and you're just going to see sky for the most part.
Yeah. Yeah, it's interesting. Oh, you know what? Ooh, it occurs to me, it could be that when you look out the window and you have a if you will, a long field of view, things nearby are going to really have a lot of motion blur and just whip on by, and things further away are moving more slowly. And I wonder if that creates a kind of spatial disorientation. In other words, you do it for a little while and you'll get a headache. And I wonder if they do something to manage that.
Could be.
The plane knows where it is by GPS, and all they have to do is drop you 30,000 feet, and you'll watch yourself going through the Rockies or the plains or a wheat field.
Yeah. Another thing that occurs to me too is it could be that this update really is kind of 1.5 in a way, because Apple, even though they have huge resources, they have a finite workforce. But when they turn this loose on all the developers at WWDC, that's a force multiplying effect. And there are a bunch of folks out there and smart kids that are going to say, oh, wow, this would be really cool if I did this. And if they give them the proper software tools and just turn them loose, and give them a developer discount, this will lead to things that even Apple didn't think of. In other words, or they might have, but said, well, that's great for the future, but we don't have the resources right now. And the other thing too is I understand these things run up about $3,000 a pop. Well, it could be that, and what I've read is that this is being used in very specialized areas, like doctors will use them for like a radiologist, for example. If you want to look at an MRI image, or where you're looking at radiology results, you can actually spin the results around. You can zoom in and zoom out, and instead of just looking at a flat monitor, you may more adequately be able to look at 3D structures in greater detail, and even maybe get some AI help along the way. So there are certain things also analyzing mechanical properties of complicated machines, or I can think of a variety of things where you could say spending $3,000 is nothing, given the visualization capability of the device. So,
yeah,
one of the things they showed is Canon has come out a new like dual lens camera that does spatial video. And I never saw that before, but it looks like it'd be something that would work well into that Vision OS. The next
Well,
thing is, I'm sorry.
Probably so, because they've been doing stereoscopic cameras for years. And all they had to do was put a motor on the film and make a strip like that, and it would be 3D for you. So yeah, it's right there. It's waiting for it.
That's true. Okay, the next thing is iOS 18, which is it's amazing all the different things that come out in iOS 18. And I know Glenn will be talking about that a little bit later, but let's do the Apple's preview.
Yeah, Ron, I thought like I was texting you during WWDC and I'm going, holy cow, I can't believe all this stuff.
Yeah, really, it's amazing, all the things. Do you see that web page or no?
No, we're still seeing your slide.
Okay, I have to stop share and share the other one.
Yeah, well, while Ron's pulling that back up, I said to a few people, I said, to me, all the software innovation coming out in these systems that impressed me, I think I'm a little more wowed or impressed by this stuff at WWDC than I've probably been in about a decade. I was, there are a lot of really, so many interesting things. I found it hard to keep up with yesterday.
Yeah, it is. It's truly amazing, all the things. Of course, the Apple Intelligence, Glenn will talk about that at the end of this meeting, but that kind of permeates everything that Apple's doing too. Customization, you can personalize your home screen. I don't know if that's something that any of you do now, but for example,
Yeah.
last month we talked about the different emojis and such that you can do. And
Ron, the more the customization they do, which I love, but I'm thinking that Steve Jobs is rolling over in his grave.
True. They can do new look for icons. You can change the color and so on of all the
I like
icons on
the
screen.
dark mode icons.
True.
I also liked in Control Center that they're giving you a lot more flexibility to add a lot more stuff that's already there. I don't know how much you all use control mode, but I use it quite a bit. It's just so easy to flick down on your screen and you've got all these controls that you use right there. So I like having that.
Photos is a big upgrade too.
By the way, I think Photos is going to tick everybody off.
Really?
Just my prediction. Here's why. I'm not saying they're not going to improve it. It may be much better, but I don't know about you guys. Every time they take an app and they totally redesign it, I'm sitting there frustrated because I'm like, why did they move this thing or do that or whatever? It worked better before. And I think you're going to have a lot of frustrated people initially.
Can't find it.
It's possible, yeah, if you can't find the things that you're actually searching for. You can do browse topics, new space for your greatest hits, favorites, messages. You can do a major news upgrade on your messages. Blown away.
Go ahead, Ron. I'll chime in here in a second.
Go ahead.
Oh,
I think this is an offshoot of the RCS stuff. I hadn't really heard the term before, but it's like rich content, something RCS, a rich content support or something like that. And I think that's a feature of the messages stuff here.
Yeah, the bold, italics, underline, strike through can play animated effects, any word, letter, word, or phrase, an emoji, and iMessage. I don't know.
Yeah,
I
was gonna say the same thing with the RCS messaging. Yeah, I'm really impressed with what they're doing with this.
You can also be connected with Wi-Fi or cellular.
And I love the scheduling feature that you can schedule a message to send later, because I don't know about you all, but sometimes I want to send a message and, like I've got a couple friends on the West Coast and like I wanted to send a message this morning and it's 8 o'clock. I'm going, oh, well, it's only 6 a.m. there. I don't want to, annoy him or something. So it's like, I'm looking forward to this thing.
So schedule it. That's good.
That is, there's support for RCS messaging.
And by the way, this is also so that you're supposed to be able to seamlessly now message people who are not using iPhones, it's supposed to work much more seamlessly. And I don't know if they'll do away with the green and blue bubbles or not, but
It works.
Yeah, I never understood that, but I guess because I have an iPhone, it doesn't matter to me.
well, I know when I send messages to people without iPhones, that sometimes things don't always come across the way you want it to, the way it looks to us with iPhones. So I think that should help.
There's message changes to message mail.
By the way, am I the only one who doesn't like the idea of categories?
I don't like it. I like my own categories.
You know, every time I've had like I have to use like the Google web interface mail for some different, professional things. And it's like, I hate all the categories. I collapse them. I don't want to see them. I just want my mail in one place. I don't know if anybody else feels that way.
Well, it's kind of more clutter in a way. I mean, it's, and the other thing too is you have to train the users, and so many people, there's no real training. And so they just get in there and they get into, if you will, they get confused and get into trouble because, well, I ended up in this mode, but I don't understand why I'm here. How do I get out of it? And it's like, well, my answer is, I don't know either. And then I have to Google it out and figure it out.
You've been talking to my wife.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I think this is an interesting development because if you look at this, they're really kind of turning messages in a manner of speaking, it's kind of like a more sophisticated word processor in a way. And there's a lot of metadata that has to be transmitted. Remember, like when messages started or text, it was like you were stuck with a message of certain length, and it was because they were cramming it into unused space in cellular packets. And it was like supervisory space, and they basically they found a way to monetize it. And now it's grown into this thing, and I'm sure the amount of metadata and stuff you have to send with the message so that you say, oh, this is a picture and you're changing the font size and all this stuff. All that stuff has to occur in the background to make all this happen, which is also a measure of how much our cellular networks have improved to the point where you can do this kind of thing, and not, create a big network congestion mess. Now, wouldn't that be a fun presentation? How does cellular messaging work?
I don't know. Either that or I'd be snoozing in 5 minutes.
Really. Safari changes, password app. They're going to have a password app, which
I think the password app is huge. I think that is so needed. Does anybody else feel that way?
well, it's supposed to work with all your devices and Windows too, supposedly.
I like that.
Well, I don't. Well, first of all, I find on the phone, it's not as easy to find your passwords as it is on the MacBook. But on Mac OS, you've got two different places. You can go into your settings and do a search for passwords, and that comes up. Or you can still go to the old keychain app, and of course that prompts you now to go to settings. And I'm like, great, we can do away with that, and now everything is just in one app everywhere across your devices. And I think this is so neat.
That should be good.
I kind of wonder if they're going to see. The thing is, I use keychain all the time, but I use it in two different modes. I have the routine stuff where it just goes, it kind of handles that stuff automatically, where it pops up the username and password when I go into something. And then I use the other attribute, which is secure notes. And I use that as a filing system for all, like if I'm keeping track of which passwords. In other words, when I deprecate a password, when I say I want that's an old password and I want to create a new one, I keep track of all that, and I have dates and everything when I changed it and all this kind of stuff. And I don't know, I haven't looked into this yet, so I don't know if they'll preserve all that. I mean, if they dumb it down to where, well, it's magic and it just works. And it's like, well, I like to be able to go in and search and see, like, both ways. I want to see how it does it automatically and how you can do it sort of by index card method, like the secure notes thing.
Well, Peter, I wonder if once this is in place, will they get rid of keychain as an app? It'll be interesting to see if that still remains or not.
Right. That's sort of the secondary question is like, do they get rid of keychain? But then then you don't have the options you do have with keychain. So anyway, we'll find out.
Yeah.
They
I-
just
I
have,
Uh,
they just have so many programmers that they have to keep busy.
uh-huh.
That's my opinion, why they redesign and redesign and redesign. Because, I mean, you very seldom see this come from the users pounding on Apple to make a change here because
Mhm.
I don't see a lot of that.
Oh, I send them requests, but they probably just ignore my one request out of, billion. Ron, can you scroll back up a second to the maps thing?
Mhm.
I don't know if we have any hikers here, but I like with the topographical maps that you can get elevation in there.
Yeah.
And I'm real curious to see like how what's the way I would say is how close in I can drill down. I've coached cross country for many years. I'm just wondering on a course, can I drill down and see elevation changes? How much can I zoom in versus like what you see here, which is a trail over, probably a number of miles. A couple looks like 2.7 miles there.
Mhm.
Yeah, it'd be interesting to see, isn't it?
Mhm.
Wallet, if you go to supper somebody and you want to pay half of the bill or something, you can actually bring your phones together and automatically send the money to people.
Mhm.
I like that feature because it's just easy. I don't have to sit there and send a text to somebody. I can just,
Yeah,
and I know there'll be
just
people
line them
like,
up and
oh my
do
God,
it.
that's a security risk. But again, you have to okay it. It's not somebody can just walk
Right, and
by.
you have to be actually at their phone.
What are you using to send it though? Share?
I don't know that you have to, I mean, I think they activate and you just have to okay it. I don't know exactly how it works or if you have to hit anything to make it happen. I'm not sure.
I want a little control if I'm sending my son $20 so he can go out with his girlfriend to a movie.
Well, I'm sure the control's in there, but until we can actually use it, I don't think they just put them together and said, look what you can do. They didn't really say how the
I
process
seen him do
works.
that anyway, so I mean I did it with sharing my password for what is it you call it when you're being the server? Crap.
Tipping?
What?
You're tipping someone?
Oh,
No. This would be, for sending a friend the password to your
Oh, like your Wi-Fi, you're just sharing your
yeah,
Wi-Fi or something?
and you just, hold them together and all of a sudden they're on your system and they can
Yeah.
surf on on your dime.
It's just eliminating some steps. I mean, you could certainly do this all the other way. Hey, Ron, before you scroll there, stop on the event ticketing stuff.
By the way, Glenn, on your elevations on your watch, you could have the elevation setting on your watch, and as you walk the course, it'll give you the different elevations.
Yeah, that's I'll be curious to see how far in I can zoom down on it in a specific area. I thought this was really cool, and I felt like it was sort of glossed over a little bit in the presentation. And Ron, I don't want to step on you if you were going to say something about this before I talk about it.
No, because I don't go to things like that usually.
Well, you have your tickets because nowadays you don't get physical tickets. All your tickets for concerts and sports and everything else are on your phone. And so I like what they're trying to do here is it's not just your ticket, but like with your ticket, there's they call it an event guide, but like you can see on the screen here, well, you see a map of the stadium. So you can figure out where your seats are and it's got the weather and there's other event information and things like that I don't have to go out of, wallet away from my ticket to now go look that stuff up somewhere else. And so I think that could be really useful.
For sure. AirPods, let's see.
Yeah, this is a cool feature, but it only works with AirPod Pros. And
naturally,
what it is for those of you who didn't see the keynote, if you've got AirPod Pros and you have a call coming in, that you can accept or decline it with just the shake of your head. So if you shake yes, it'll initiate the call. If you shake no, it'll decline the call.
Hmm.
You don't have to say anything or tap anything.
How does it do that? Does it something in the AirPod Pros?
They have to
change
have an
your-
accelerometer in it.
Okay.
They probably have they were probably thinking ahead at some point. I'm trying to think of a use case besides this, where you would, but I mean, if you're building a custom chip, or integrating something into a small package, putting an accelerometer in there is probably not a huge thing.
Yeah, I think that
But being told that one of them had fallen out of my ear because for some reason I can't keep any of those things in my ears and they're constantly falling out. And I might not notice it, but if the other one says, "Oh, your earpod just hit the ground," you'd stop and look around.
Don, do you have the AirPod Pros?
I do not.
The Pros fit much better than the regular AirPods because I had issues with the AirPods and all their other headphones, but the Pros fit great. I don't have a problem with those.
I thought I was going to have to start using rubber cement.
Hey, Ron, can you scroll back up
Like what?
to the notes right there?
Notes?
Yeah, I thought there was a cool thing with live audio transcription. So notes now can actually generate like a audio transcription. And I don't know how exactly it will work, but I think that's really cool. Like say if I'm sitting in a lecture or something, or I'm listening to a speaker and I can now get notes from that. It's like, essentially taking notes from
Oh,
me.
it'll transcribe the notes. Interesting.
Oh, I'm going to be real curious to see how that works. I think that's a cool feature. Or if you're making a call, maybe you've got a business call or something that you want a record of, that you could transcribe the audio for it. Like I said, I'll be curious to find out more about this and how this all works.
Well, a lot of that maybe has to do with Apple Intelligence.
Yeah.
Journal, Apple TV app, the Home app, which I don't use.
By the way, that Apple TV app, if you go back up there for a second, this is actually a big thing for Apple TV that you can use, but also if you've got, you can pull it up on your phone. I don't know about how many of you do this, but my wife and I, whenever we're watching something, it seems like we're like, oh, who is that actor? What were they in? Or they've got a song playing. And I want to know what it is. Well, now they have this thing called Select in Sight. And so you can literally, it'll let you, whatever you're watching, it'll pull up and it'll show you like who the actors are you're seeing. And if there's a song, it'll identify what's playing. And if you like the song, you can even add it. Like if you've got Apple Music, you can add that to your Apple Music library or whatever.
Wow.
I think that's a great companion. Because like I said, I know my wife and I will be watching a show. I'll be like, I know that actor. What's that guy been in? Who is that?
Yeah. Well,
So I wonder,
dialogue on iPhone would be useful too.
This feature has to be dependent on facial recognition to some degree, but it's happening in the Apple TV itself, I suspect.
Yeah.
Right?
Yes, it is. Yes.
So that's interesting. I wonder, do they pre-process all this stuff to provide a tag, for each actor and they know when they're on the screen, or is it done real time? Just just offhand question, I don't know, but I mean, it's like I can think of a couple ways to do it. And I wonder how they do this.
I think it's probably a combination of both, but I'm just guessing.
Yeah, boy, that's interesting, isn't it?
It's magic, I think.
Well, I don't know if y'all know this, but the Shazam app not only does it identify songs, but I was down at Port Aransas one time. We were watching a movie on TV, and everybody was going, "Wow, what is the name of that movie?" Because we turned it on in the middle. Of course, we didn't have a TV guide or anything. And so I said, well, let me just hold my Shazam up there just in case it works. And it pulled up the title of the movie.
Wow.
Using Shazam before Apple, bought it and integrated it into their system. It is a great app though. Bill, you're so right. It's so handy to have.
Oh, is Is that what happened? I mean, did Apple actually buy the Shazam organization, or,
Yes. Yeah,
They
they
did.
that, and now they've integrated it into their, I actually put it in my control center. That way I can just, flip down and there it is. By the
Wow.
way, before we go on, Ron, one thing that was in iOS, it wasn't really talked about, but if you looked at sort of the little things on the bottom when you scroll there, they had it, but they are redesigning the month view for calendar and iOS. And I don't know about the rest of you, but I think I love calendar like on my iPad and on my MacBook, but I despise it on my phone. And the only reason I use it is because it just syncs across all my devices. So I'm going to be looking forward to seeing what does this view look like, because when I always keep mine in month view, and when I look at month view on my iPad or my Mac, it's a big enough screen, it's laid out there. But on your phone, when you look at it, it's just a bunch of numbers and dots. And so I'm hoping that they make it a little more easy to just at a glance look at stuff.
Okay, this slide shows you that iOS 18 will be available in all these different models, which I still have the XS.
Well,
which is really old now.
that they're going all the way back still to the SE and the X. You're still going to be able to use this with a lot of your phones, because some of the stuff, now they're really limiting it. And I know I'll get more into Apple AI later. That's super limited as to what you can use it on.
True.
Glenn, I'm glad you made that point, because I was about ready to make it myself.
Yeah.
Glenn, do you have anything else to talk about iOS 18?
No, those are just some of the things that jumped out at me as you're going along. I'll kind of throw those out.
I think the reason some of this, because that they kind of deprecate the older phones and stuff, is because as their chips they were planning ahead, and they have a machine learning unit in these things. There's basically 3 units in the if you will, in the chip. There's the regular computational CPUs, there's the graphic CPUs, and then there's a machine learning block. And the machine learning block has gotten more capable and expanded as time has gone by. And so the newer, like the latest ones, have all kinds of whippy stuff, and apparently the M4 is going to be loaded with it. So
yeah,
there we are.
Can I mention something about iPad OS 18? I saw on the presentation, the thing that blew me away was that they're going to put the calculator app on the iPad for the first time. And what's amazing is you'll be able to use the new Apple Pencil, and you'll be able to write a math equation with the pencil. And as soon as you put in an equal sign, the answer will just pop up like magic on the screen. And I've got to see that. I've got to get an Apple Pencil and see that to believe it.
Yeah, Bill, we'll talk about it here when we get to iPad OS. But yeah, that was one of the big things that they came out with. It's cool. Although I'll tell you a different perspective on that when we get to it in a few minutes.
Okay, so audio and home, there's of course the iPads, and it's usually the
I think
AirPods Pro and such.
Is this the stuff for the Apple TV stuff, it looks like?
No, I don't think so.
I don't know. Is this?
I know it wants my thermostat to work on home, but I won't let it.
I agree with that.
I sure hope they maintain support for the Airport Express for a long time.
That's a device I haven't heard about in a while.
They're great. They work. I mean, that's the thing, is they just work. I mean, they're not complicated. It's a great way to send music to one or several places in the house.
Yeah.
The next thing is watchOS. And let's see if we can go to there.
Doesn't look like it's pulling it up from our point of view, Ron. Oh.
I have to reshare. So you see that?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Okay. The activity rings.
I like that you can pause it and resume it, because I know a lot of people who are really into their activity rings don't want to like break their streaks.
Yeah.
But if like, I don't know, something's going on, maybe you got to have surgery or you're going to be flying all day, you can actually pause it so that way it won't be looking at it and it won't like break your, streak of stuff.
Your rewards or something.
Yeah.
Summaries.
A big thing with the activity summary that I liked is that they're just making it much more customizable what you can have on the screen for that stuff. And so that's great because, some of the stuff some people use and some don't. I love Vitals. I think Vitals is a really cool feature, a little app. For those of you who don't know what that is, basically it's going to, your Vitals, it's tracking that stuff all in one place in one app that you can now check that stuff, and it can watch for trends, and it can alert you of things like you see down there. It says 2 outliers. And so it can it's sort of putting all that stuff into one place in one app, which I think is a great idea.
Can I add something?
Yes.
For anybody, well, you don't know me other than I'm Glenn's dad and my age, and I don't live in the country. About 2 or 3 months ago, my watch started, the top of the watch started buzzing, and it was a blue light. And when I look at it, it said my BPM was over 100 resting. And I thought, oh, it's something I had tripped and fell my watch. I thought the watch was broke. Went on, and I was in St. Louis recently and went for a normal checkup, and they found out that I have AFib. Now, the watch was telling me when it was flashing blue light that I was over 100 beats per minute, which is putting you in AFib. So that is something is unbelievable that I don't know if y'all understand what I'm saying, but it could save your life.
Yeah, I hear a lot of stories like that about people that were alerted to problems by their watch. And I just kind of think putting all your vitals together in one space just makes it a lot easier to look at that stuff or maybe to get these alerts possibly, and again, until we all see this and use it, it's hard to know exactly how it will all work.
So how does it actually figure out what your respiratory rate is?
Well, if on your watch, you push the bezel and it gives you all your apps you have there, and you have the little heart one, press on the heart one and wait a minute, it'll tell you what your beats are currently.
No, that's for your heart rate, but this is it says respiratory rate, 14.6 breaths per minute.
Oh, okay.
So
I'm sorry.
Do you have to blow into the little knob on it, or
No.
is it also a breathalyzer?
No.
I'm kidding, obviously, but yeah.
Peter, I swear I heard sometime, and I could be so wrong about this, but I wanted to say it was something like one of the sensors on the back of the watch that somehow can track that. I thought I heard that, but like I said, I could be totally off on that.
Oh, you know what?
Yeah, what I think it's doing is that there's an algorithm that's related to your heartbeat.
Yeah.
And your heart is going to beat faster when you exercise, and your breathing rate is going to increase when you're doing exercise.
Yeah.
And so there's got to be an algorithm in there as it'll establish a base, 16 breaths a minute, 72 beats a minute. Well, when 72 goes up to 95, well, then the breath probably go up to 19 or 20, based on an algorithm that they've got built into it.
I wonder if they could measure your blood oxygenation, they may be able to measure really small deviations in that too, and correlate it somehow.
Yeah, they do.
Possible.
Interesting.
One thing that I found curious is they have this, overnight, vitals, compilation. When the heck do you charge your phone if you keep the watch on when you're sleeping?
Jim, I have gone back and forth on that because I'd like to see what's going on when I'm sleeping, get my vitals, that kind of thing. But like you said, it's like well, I want my watch charged for the day. So I don't want to have to, I mean, I guess maybe while I'm taking a shower in the morning or whatever, I can charge it because the charge is pretty fast now. But plus the other thing is I don't know that I want to sleep with my watch on really, but
And there are other times that you can charge it. I mean, if you're gonna sit down at your computer and do 2 hours worth of work, well, your watch can be charging because anything your watch can do is on your computer or your iPad, if that's what you're using.
Wonder if it has a snore detector.
It hasn't lit off on mine yet, and I know I do.
Hello? Yeah, I had a couple of comments. I use my watch to keep track of both sleep and my heart rate and AFib. And I had really bad AFib for a while. And I used the record that went to my cell phone to convince my practitioner that I had AFib or my cardiologist. And he finally shocked me. And the second time I got a shock on there, my AFib has dropped down to less than 2%.
That's great.
It was
That's
up to
good.
40.
That's great. You're able to use. Sorry, guys. That's great that you're able to use that to do that. It's just another example, though, of how these devices now are really making a difference with your health.
Yeah,
certainly it has to be.
Yeah.
Yeah, I had heard from somebody that he had his heart monitor on, and it was around Valentine's Day, and he said he wondered if after a romantic episode, what kind of data showed up at the hospital.
Darling.
Hey, there's an app that you can get called Sleep Talk. And that app, you run it at night or whatever, and it will record things like you're snoring or grinding your teeth or talking in your sleep. It's a really good app if you want to find out what you're actually doing.
Oh, and then it provides an annoyance index for your partner.
That's a pretty good app.
I also have sleep apnea, and I use the sleep thing to see how much what my sleep things. My watch sends a message to my cell phone, and I have a record of what my sleep activity is.
Same here.
Ron, could you go back up to no, Smart Stack there? I'm going to be curious to see how the Smart Stack stuff works, but supposedly the widgets will show up on your phone automatically, whatever is needed. So, like here you see on the watch, Uber arriving. So if you've got, presume if you have the Uber app and you're using that, then that'll automatically put that up there. So you'll know that, you can track that, or like it shows the, if rain is coming, the weather, will pop up. So it's sort of like, instead of you saying, oh, I'm going to put these, things, these widgets here, that what it sounds to me is that they're going to automatically come up when they're pertinent. And I like that idea.
It'd be interesting to see if it works that way, right?
Yeah.
Really haven't gotten used to stacks yet. I'll be interested in seeing if they're going to make it easier for me.
Yeah, if anybody rows, they have now included rowing in the activities.
Translate. That looks interesting to me.
Ron, I would presume this would be something that interests you as a former foreign language teacher.
Well, if I ever go to Korea, maybe that would work, right?
Yeah, I'm going to be curious to see if this will really work in real time right on your wrist, because, to me, that's so much nicer than me having to pull out my phone or pull up an app. If I can, just do this where, it will detect a different language or something. And again, I don't know how it works exactly, but, they're saying, you can just say it into the thing, into your watch, and it's supposed to translate, up to 20 different languages.
Wow.
And I thought they were saying in the presentation, like when they were using Korean, that it basically was detecting where you were. So it's assuming like, that you might need Korean or something, like if you're in Korea.
Or maybe Southern United States, I might have to do that too.
Yeah.
Yeah, Southern dialects. Yeah, in Louisiana, it's totally different.
Yeah.
Remember one time going to a Walmart someplace and his guy walked up and said, "May I help you?" And I thought, what the hell is he saying? But anyway, he was trying to ask if he could help me.
Yeah, I wonder if it does the same thing up in Scotland.
Yeah, true.
Oh, yeah.
Even in England, I might need a case there too. Double tap.
Hmm.
And by the way, for those of you who don't know, on a lot of watches, you can use double tap. It's if you go into the settings, what do they call it for?
It's for
accessibility. Thank you. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. That you can enable. I've got that enabled on my watch, and I don't have a watch technically that comes with with that feature, but you can enable it. So that is out there if any of you want that, that ability on your watch. And I find it handy. I glance at something, I double tap and acknowledge it, get rid of it, whatever. And I think it's handy to have just to do that real quick. By the way,
watch?
Ron,
I'm sorry, what?
Are you tapping your watch?
Nope, you just
double tap your thing like that.
Yeah.
On the watch.
No.
Just your fingers, right?
Here, just boom, boom.
I do it on my phone, but not on my watch.
Well, what it's doing is it's reading basically when your wrist flexes from that motion, the watch senses it, and then it can like dismiss or respond to a prompt. And you can, if you've got the proper watch models to actually take full advantage of it, you can actually navigate in your watch as well that way.
Wow.
I double tap for taking a screenshot because I never can simultaneously push those two buttons opposite each other.
Yeah. Yeah, you're not actually touching. I mean, it's like I said, is when I, move my hand like this, it's sensing my wrist, the tendons in my wrists that are flexing, and that's how it's sensing that.
Interesting.
Okay, there's the OS, watch OS compatibility. The next was iOS 18, iPad OS. I'm sorry.
Yeah.
And a lot of these things are different for iOS.
Ron?
Yes.
Can you go back to the compatibility for a second?
Yes.
Goes all the way back to 6 or SE.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, I have a 5, so I guess I'm out of luck.
I just got an SE 3rd generation. I finally gave up my SE 1st generation. It was only 8 years old.
Okay, so iPad OS, like I said, a lot of things are different and a lot of things are the same as the iOS for phones. So let's open this. Get rid of this. Over that. I think that's it, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Of course, notice as you go through here, everything opens with Apple Intelligence. So a lot of things were like compared to all the things that we know, a lot of the things we will find different when Apple Intelligence.
Yeah, and like you said, Ron, I'll kind of address that after we go through
Yeah,
some
for
of these.
sure. Notes.
So this is a cool feature, and I thought somebody was mentioning this earlier. I don't remember who it was. Maybe it was Robert. I don't know. Maybe it was John. One of you guys. But this was cool. If you watch the keynote, they're showing how you're writing, and it will like kind of match your handwriting if you're, writing on there with the pencil, and it'll like put stuff in the same handwriting, I guess it is. It's pretty cool looking.
And like John's, it'll clean it up for him,
Yeah, yeah. So you can, I thought that was pretty cool. They say it smooths it out, and I don't know exactly how it senses what your style is, but it matches it. And I thought that was really cool.
Probably straightens it out too.
Yeah.
It better.
Ron, let's stop here on calculator because that's a huge one. First of all, let's all just cheer that they actually have made a calculator app for the iPad.
The iPad, yeah.
I mean, I have third-party ones that I've used for years, and it always has just blown my mind that they never had a native calculator app for the iPad.
Yeah.
And so it's so about time. And I think on the big iPad display, it'll be kind of nice to use, especially if you're using like the scientific calculator. And of course, this is what, let's see, I believe it was Bill brought up before, math notes. And so what Bill was saying is that you can, write an expression here. And as soon as you do the equal sign, it will compute the expression or whatever, you've put in there. It'll give you the answer. And if you literally go like, see where they have, well, I guess in this, n, and then they've got the 1/2 in there. If you change that fraction, it's going to change the answer. So if you go, once you have the equals, that's the trigger that does it. And then if you go back in and change any part of the equation, it will actually on the fly change, what
Yeah,
the
it
answer.
automatically updates. Yeah, it's amazing.
Yeah.
And even
And
like the scale
and
here,
yeah,
it changes that too.
Imagine high school kids using that to cheat on math tests.
Okay, well, Bill, this is what I was going to address because after I watched it, I went to my wife and I said, wow, there's this really cool feature. And I told her about math notes and she immediately hated it. Well, my wife is a middle school math teacher. And so she's like, great, just another way for kids to get the answers without doing it themselves. So
well, they just have to confiscate their iPads, right?
But I thought what I think can really be interesting with this is, and they were showing a couple demonstrations, sort of alluding to it, that you can get into some pretty interesting like physics and calculus stuff where, I could see this could be a real aid in working through things as you're jotting stuff down. So I think it's cool. Stop there, Ron, for a second on customization. We didn't mention this on iOS, but you have it on both iPad OS and iOS with the rearranging your apps and widgets. So like if you see there on that picture, notice that like the widgets or the apps and widgets are all arranged around the picture. And you'll now be able to do this on both iOS and iPad OS, that you can kind of move things. It's not all the same, just rows that'll show up. You can actually arrange them how you want them. I don't know how much customization of that they'll give you, but I think that's kind of cool to make your screen look how you want, or if you've got a nice background that you want to kind of work around, say a face or something like there, you'll be able to do that. And as Ron said, there are a lot of things like, control center and apps that are the same in iOS and iPad OS. Same with the photos,
Photos, yeah.
Yeah. So a lot of it is very similar.
Messages, same thing.
Yeah. By the way, with messages, what I'm hoping is the Mac OS messages is so screwed up. I'm hoping that this major update with messages and the whole RCS thing might help with some of the problems with the Mac OS messages.
Yeah, I can never get that on my Mac OS to work exactly right.
Well, especially if you're trying to message non-Mac users, it's a nightmare.
Yeah. Passwords app, of course.
This next thing, SharePlay, I'm really excited about. And so what this is you can share a screen, and you see like right there, they have like the little arrow drawn. I don't know if you guys can see that little purple arrow and circle. So you can like share screens, and you can show stuff on there. And you can also do, you can already you can do this with messages where you share a screen like in Mac OS, but now you're going to be able to use this share play to remote in and basically take over somebody's iPad to, you know, help them with stuff or show them stuff. So I love that because I know I've used that feature through messages on Mac OS. You know, I've done that with my father, helping him with, you know, when he has problems, or I know that Alan Thorpe and I have done that when we've been working on stuff together. And so now I'm glad to see that you can do this kind of stuff on messages
Will
or
this
on
be
iPad.
from Austin to San Antonio or whatever, you could still do that?
Yeah, you could do it wherever. I mean, you just have to have the only thing I will say is when you're trying to do that, and I'm presuming it's going to be the same on this share play as it is with messages. One thing you've got to make sure that you don't have enabled is a VPN. I learned after trial and error the hard way that if either party has, excuse me, either party has a VPN enabled, that you're not going to be able to get through. You've got to both be able to, you've got to have that disabled or it will not work. So be forewarned on that kind of stuff. I presume it'll be the same. By the way, another thing we did not mention, Ron, that is both iPad OS and iOS is the little tab bar at the bottom. There's a little white tab bar at the bottom you'll find in both systems. If you double tap that, and you see this right here, that little white bar at the bottom, if you double tap that, you're able to use that to enable Siri if you don't want to have to speak out loud. I know a lot of people just want to go, hey, you know, and do their thing, but frankly, I kind of find it annoying when people around here doing that. So now you can just click that, double tap that little bar there, and it's supposed to bring Siri up, and you can just type something real quick if you don't want to have to speak it.
You know, I was just going to say that thing about being able to write out equations and stuff and have them solve them. And I was thinking, you know, that's been around for a long time on the Mac platform. And I had to go look because I was like, oh, what did they call that? And it's in the utilities folder, and it's called Grapher.
Yeah.
And boy, it's amazing. It's like the poor man's Mathematica, kind of. And most people don't know about it, but I mean, you show people and just say, yeah, you can just, it has and it's only gotten better. I just went and looked at it. And it's like head and shoulders over what it was even 10 or 15 years ago, but it's been buried. Go ahead.
Oh, I say, Peter, you know what I think is cool though about this versus that is that I can just have my Apple Pencil and it's like I'm just writing this out and then bam, you know.
Yeah, no question about it. But I thought, yeah, this seems familiar, and it's like, but they've just hugely expanded Grapher. Anyway, I thought, oh, is that something that got chucked out? Nope, still there.
Yeah.
Okay, iOS 18, iPad OS 18 is compatible with all these devices.
Yeah, I'm glad that at least there's still a few older models, not real old, but at least that you can, not as many as with the iPhone and iOS, but I always like when some of our older models can still run some of the, you know, some of these systems.
Okay, the next is Mac OS Sequoia.
Anybody predict that was going to be the name of their new Mac OS?
No.
I was not even thinking Sequoia when they brought that one up.
Not far off.
Okay, so let's go to this one. Stop share. Go to this one. Stop share. Whoops. Okay, you seen that one?
Yes.
Sharp as a Mac. Again, Apple Intelligence, always there. Continuity. This is the one where you can use your iPhone on your Mac. I just think that's kind of amazing.
Okay, mind blown. I think this is maybe the coolest feature I saw all day. I'm like, I love this. I don't know about you guys, but that's awesome that I can mirror that on my, you know, Mac, and I can, you know, do stuff on there. And by the way, you can also move stuff between the two devices.
And off.
It's amazing.
And off.
Hmm.
So I'll be
Oh.
curious to put that through its paces and see everything that you can do with that.
You know, I didn't know this, but I was helping out my sister-in-law doing screen sharing. I talked him into getting an M2 Mac Mini, and I got him set up and got everything. They got everything moved in, and her screen sharing didn't work. She had a 2012 Mac Mini and it didn't work, and all of a sudden now screen sharing works. But I thought, oh gee, can I just drag stuff from my desktop onto her desktop, and it worked.
Yeah, that's cool.
For sure.
This is a cool hold on, Ron, go back here right there. The window tiling thing. It's not like it's something that's going to change what I do or how I do things, but it is kind of nice that you can now, it'll like tile things in a nice kind of order for you to work on your screen there. So just make your workspace a little easier to work with. So I think that'll be kind of cool without having to, I'm going to move this here and fiddle with this size and everything else.
Up until now, you almost had to use a third-party utility. I've got one called GAMUG that will allow you to do that.
And John, I bet I can only imagine these third-party developers. And Ron, would you stop there for a second? I can only imagine these third-party developers every time Apple throws something out and they're just in their office screaming when Apple, puts something into their system that is what they do and they make their livelihood from.
Yeah, there's a term for that. It's called Sherlocking.
Yeah. Okay, Safari. I don't know about the rest of you. I still use Safari as my main browser, but I also find more and more I'm using DuckDuckGo and occasionally Arc. I am glad to see it, at least it feels this way to me in watching this, is that they're putting some real effort into Safari. And I kind of feel like they've sort of let Safari just kind of hang in the wind a little bit in recent years. And I feel like Safari it's a great browser, but it's got these weird little quirks that don't always play nice with the rest of the internet. And I feel like with some work, Safari could be a much better browser. And so I'm hopeful that some of the things that they are doing with Safari, that they're trying to do that a little bit more to make it the browser that it could be. So I'm glad to see that it looks like they're putting a little more effort back into Safari.
Passwords app will be on the Mac too. Gaming, of course. Messages, all those same things that we've seen, the other things. Schedule a message to send later. Maps. It's like the iPad OS, iOS 18, and Mac are all kind of converging.
Yeah, and that's been their trend, is to try to make those a little more alike. Again, I think notes, and I don't know how many people, I keep thinking about doing a presentation on notes because I don't think a lot of people really use the full power of notes. But notes does a lot of stuff in there. If you don't ever use notes, it is a more powerful app than what you think it is. And I use it all the time. I would say it's one of my probably top 4 or 5 most used apps that I use. So if you don't use it, I recommend looking into it a little more.
I have an iOS 18 question for the camera. You think there'll be a way to set the white balance? I want it just fixed for make it act like daylight film. And the other one is I would like to be able to put the focus in manual. I want to set it to infinity, just slightly less than infinity.
I haven't personally seen any specs on the camera software for iOS 18.
You'll have to upgrade and see if it does that.
Yeah, I have no idea yet. I haven't seen anything on what you're going to be able to do differently.
I'm sure you could do that with a third-party app.
Yeah, I know.
But
out there.
You can't. You can get immediately to the camera that's on your phone. You just press the button and swipe to the left and you're right away in the camera. I don't know how you can go to a third-party camera app as immediately as like that.
Please go back to the compatibility screen. Thank you.
Yeah.
iMac 2019, Mac Studio, Mac Mini 2018,
Mm. So
iMac Pro 2017.
they haven't moved beyond Intel yet.
Yeah, it looks like if you're still an Intel model from like the late teens, you should be okay.
In part.
Yeah, I got one of the last ones.
Okay, the next one is Glenn.
Okay.
Apple Intelligence. I love the idea AI, which
Yeah.
artificial intelligence. Now it's Apple Intelligence for the rest of us.
Well, I don't know. Is Apple trying to tell us they're more intelligent?
But their marketing people are, because now AI means Apple intelligence instead of artificial intelligence.
Right. Yeah.
And I bet the Android marketing people are just outraged.
Yeah. Well, Elon Musk is really worked up about this, by the way.
Oh my God.
Well,
Good for
I think
him.
some of Elon Musk's, indignation about it, though, is simply because, of that he was involved with ChatGPT before, and kind of like every company's been with, eventually people want to kick him out because they get tired of dealing with them. So I think that's, I think that's some of it. And let me say this, and I'll go ahead and just share this. Can you guys see my screen here?
Yep.
Yes.
Okay. I am very leery of the whole AI thing, and I feel like everybody's jumped on this IA train the last couple of years, and I'm not one of these people that's so paranoid. I don't trust anything, but I don't fully trust it. I mean, I'll be honest, and so I just feel like we're sort of opening Pandora's box here, and we have no clue where it's all leading. So that being said, if I'm going to trust anybody, it's certainly I'm going to trust Apple more than a lot of other companies. Now, part of this is partnering with ChatGPT, so that then makes me a little more leery. So the big thing with Apple Intelligence is, I heard an interesting stat. So really, what Apple Intelligence is, guys, it's machine learning. It's that they've just taken their machine learning and they keep improving it and improving it. But that's what Apple's called it for the last, I don't know, 6-7 years. But what I have heard is that the machine learning that they're using for their Apple Intelligence is supposedly something like 4 times as fast as the previous generation of machine learning, which is allowing them to be able to do a lot more, especially with these new processors, just the power and the speed of this allows it to be more of a real-time companion that it can really work for you. One of the things that I liked was the sort of writing stuff that they're doing. And so, basically it will allow you to, as you're writing, it will help you to improve your writing, which, we've seen that with other AI stuff, that it'll write stuff for you. It'll summarize things that you have put out there, and it'll also offer you options of how you want it to sound. And I was watching this, and it sounds like it's becoming more and more capable. And it's funny, because I talked about my wife with the math notes thing. Well, I was talking to a friend of mine who he's a retired English teacher, and now he works in the PR business. And he hates this because he's like, again, it's one more tool where people don't actually learn how to write well. And instead, they just are relying on a machine to write it for them. And so I totally get that point of view. you know, one of the things I like, if you see here, is you can have it take your writing and you can tell it to, as you see here, you know, proofread it, but you can also have it put it into different voice for you. Do you want it to be more of a friendly voice, a professional voice? Do you want to be concise? And I'm thinking this is great for me because I know over recent years when I'm writing an email that I'm angry about, or maybe if it's something really important professionally or something, a lot of times my wife will say, don't send that, let me look at it. And she will change my language for me because as she tells me, I'm way too direct for my own good sometimes. And so, you know, she will do that. It's like, you know, my wife, whose name is Amy, it's her IA for my writing. Will not have this that will do that for me, that, you know, okay, maybe it can sort of clean it up a little bit for me so it doesn't come across the wrong way. And I'll be curious to play with that and see how that part of the writing stuff works. It'll also be cool because if you've got a big long thing, it'll summarize it or put out bullet points that, you know, you can just now share with people, that will, you know, be nice and easy for people to go through. So I think that's kind of cool. They were talking a lot about image stuff. So you can kind of see here from their little graphic, like you can give it different descriptors and it will come up with an image for you. And then it'll find something. And so you can use that image, or I guess you can then say, no, I don't want that. I want something different. You know, the example they use there in the little text message thing, you can say where they typed, I don't know if you can see, it says, not all heroes wear capes, but you do. And then it kind of found this little emoji kind of looking, I don't know, graphic, whatever you want to call it, picture to go with that. And so they call it Genmoji. And I believe they said there's 3 different modes, types of pictures you can use. Like one is a sketch. The other one is more like this kind of look. And I forget what the other one is now, but you can choose sort of how you want the image to look, how realistic or how more cartoonish you want that to look. And they're also putting together this thing that's called Image Playground, where, and I don't fully understand this, so if somebody else does, feel free to chime in, but like you can sort of produce your own little original images that the AI will, you know, come up with for you. And then you can, you know, based on your descriptions of what you want it to look like, and then it kind of keeps this into your own little library, as I understand it, your own little playground. And then you can use that, because there is, if you see here, I didn't want to stay there, but you can see there's an image playground app, and that will have your little things that you create. And that's what I understand, that you can then pull that stuff from when you need it. That's at least how I understand it. Siri is, you know, Apple's been, no, go away. Sorry, S lady. I didn't mean to wake you on all my devices here.
Are you leaving images? Are you leaving images?
Are you? I don't know. And that's what I'm saying. I don't know enough about that image playground to know if, does that just, when I open this app at some point, they're all there that I've created. That's kind of what I'm assuming, but I don't know enough about it yet.
Well, on the topic of images, I wanted to mention that I saw something about Adobe came out with a new license agreement where that you have to agree to allow Adobe to go through all your own personal artwork files and stuff like that to teach its artificial intelligence.
Oh, no.
Don't do that.
Tammy,
No.
I don't know about that because I have a subscription, you know, that I've got all the Adobe apps, the Creative Cloud that I use quite a bit. And I've never had that prompt that I needed to agree to that. So I can't speak any more to that, but.
Yeah, I think,
either I got misinformation or you missed the prompt.
Or it's still coming.
You could look at a YouTuber. His name is Louis Rossman. He's a right to repair guy.
Okay.
Yeah, there was
something coming soon and not yet happened.
I thought he said it happened. I think it's one of his last videos. It's the one, he did a video about GoPro being waterproof. That's not really waterproof. I didn't watch the video, so I don't really know what he said about waterproof on GoPro, but I think it's the video before that, if you go into his YouTube timeline.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, well, Google has a tool where you can, where basically you can put an image, you can take a photo and stick it in there and say, where is this? I thought, oh, that's pretty neat. But when I went to try and actually, get myself enrolled for that, they said, oh, you have to give us access to your whole photo library so that we can train our whatever they called it at the time. And I was like, no, are you kidding?
It brings me to another comment I'd like to make. I saw a news article that Elon Musk is going to ban Apple devices in his companies because he's concerned about the Apple artificial intelligence features, and maybe he's concerned about corporate sensitive information getting out and getting processed on machines that are outside his corporations or whatever. That brings me to question, with all this AI, how are we going to be aware of what processing is happening in our own hardware that we pay for versus when our data is being sent somewhere else to be processed on somebody else's machine?
Well, Terry, I'm going to address that a little bit here. I can't fully answer that, but I'm going to address that in just a minute here. So, I think one of the biggest beneficiaries of a lot of this Apple intelligence will be Siri. And I know people have complained that, well, Siri isn't, I got to quit saying, the S lady isn't as good as it could be. It's behind other, assistants and stuff like that. But I think that we're going to see some real leaps and bounds. And I'll be curious, just that interaction, how much better that's going to work with all of this. So that's something that kind of remains to be seen for me, what we're going to see. All right. So the big thing with Apple is they are telling us that, as always, Apple always leads with privacy. Well, how private is it? We don't really know, as Terry was kind of alluding to here. What they've done, though, is they are creating their own separate servers called private cloud compute. And that is going to be just for running Apple Intelligence and handling requests and stuff. And that's supposed to be separate so that it stays more private. And basically what they were touting, and of course, all I can tell you is what they said, is that when you're using Apple Intelligence, it's all based on your data in your devices, and it's not going out there somewhere to find this stuff. When you do need to leave your environment, that's where they start to integrate with ChatGPT. So what they have said is that you can use ChatGPT for certain requests that Apple can't handle, that it's not able to do that for you. And so, by the way, that's going to be free. You don't have to have an account with ChatGPT. If you do have an account, then what ChatGPT will do is it will basically accumulate your experiences so that hopefully it can better serve you. But obviously then the downside of that is it's going to know more about you. But Apple really went to lengths during this presentation to assure everybody that, you know what, we are not just opening this all up to ChatGPT. A lot of this is staying in-house with your hardware and with our private servers. So, Terry, I mean, who knows? I mean, I can't answer that. All I can tell you is Apple is trying to make a real delineation between Apple Intelligence and ChatGPT.
So basically,
here.
Some of the processing happens on our own devices. Some of the processing is going to happen in this new server farm you described. It's owned by Apple. And some of the processing will actually be sent outward to ChatGPT.
Correct.
Well, I would have to say that Apple has, I don't know, what, $1 trillion in the bank, if you will. I mean, they're not grubby like Google, and they don't have to go and basically monetize every user. You know what I mean? They basically make enough money on their products and services to basically be able to pay really smart people to look after our data. And if you look, I mean, Google and Yahoo and all these other outfits have a terrible history in terms of protecting people from hacks and all kinds of other stuff. I mean, Android phones are, I wouldn't have one, frankly, but I just think, well, they actually have a stake in this and that their reputation means something. When you buy an Apple product, you don't expect it to sell you on the marketplace.
One question I have is if you use a third-party app that has Apple AI features built into it, and I'm assuming that developers will be able to take advantage of it, then how do you know that that developer isn't collecting your data?
Well, my hope, Bill, is that Apple's got some pretty stringent requirements with them, but that,
Well, what I've found is like I had a guy gave me some source code for an application that basically runs a little FM radio, and I compiled it, and I wanted to be able basically, I basically wanted to compile this thing and make it available to the public for free on the Apple Store. And what I found is that it's a lot harder. They run it through a hardening process, and basically they force you to use their APIs. And that means that they kind of control the process, and it's more difficult than you think. I mean, if you want to jailbreak your phone or jailbreak your computer and use third-party stuff that does weird and inexplicable stuff, that's fine. You can do it. But if you stick with Apple stuff that you get from the Apple Store, it's pretty well proven out. They're going to look out for you. And I think the Europeans are upset about this, and they're trying to force them to open it up a little bit, but they're dragging their feet like crazy. Apple is. So anyway, well, I don't work for Apple, so I don't have a vested interest.
One thing that notice here is Apple Intelligence compatibility. It's not a lot of devices. And I was very disappointed when I saw this, that for instance, look at the iPhone. You've got a 15 Pro or Pro Max. Those are the only ones, that seem to be that they're saying is compatible, total compatibility with Apple Intelligence. Now, I don't know. I'm presuming there are parts of Apple Intelligence that will filter down to other stuff. But if you want to be able to totally use this in full, it sounds to me like you got to have an i15 Pro model, or, you're looking here, you've got to have, the no Intel stuff. It's got to be, at least M1 stuff or later. So, and I understand why, because needing the computational power and the machine learning, the power to run this stuff, you need the latest devices. But they're really touting this. So I'm like, I mean, I don't know what percentage of people have these models versus older stuff in the Apple universe. But I'm thinking, man, you're really touting this stuff, but are you leaving out a huge percentage of the people that are even being able to use this?
Well, probably power is the thing, because I read the specs. I just got a new iPad Pro with the M4 chip in it. And what's changed radically in the last couple of years is the neural engine that can process multiple trillions of operations per second. That's hard to even conceive of. And an iPhone that's even 2 years old isn't going to be able to do that.
Yeah. Well, I was kind of hoping that there might be some watered down stuff, using some of this that maybe some people can use in older devices. Otherwise, like I said, I don't know what percentage of people are using, older Apple devices, but you're really leaving out a lot of people from all this Apple Intelligence stuff that you're really touting. So anyway, it'll be interesting to see where all this goes. But as I said before, just in closing, I was more excited watching WWDC than I have been in a number of years for just the software stuff. I think there's going to be some really cool systems and things that we're going to be able to do with this stuff. Now, what I hate is that they announce all this, it's great, and now we got to wait months, till the fall to see any of it, in action. And so and then by the time it comes out, I forget half the stuff that is going to be there, and I got to go back and relearn all of it. And as the GAMUG people know, I usually go back and do in my goodies, I'll usually do a review of some of these systems, so I'll plan to do that in the fall as well.
Use Apple AI to summarize everything in the WWDC.
There you go. Sounds good, Bill.
Well, I would wager any of the lists that they have put out are first list.
Yes. Yeah, and there's things that, you know, you don't know if everything will come out at once or some things will be added in updates. Steve, did you have something you wanted to say?
I was just going to say the stock market was impressed with WWDC. Apple closed up $14 today.
Wow.
Oh, nice.
That's good news. I made some money today.
Close today over 207.
All right, Ron, I think we have one other thing on the agenda then to close.
Yeah, we have our membership rewards drawing, but you do a ticket. I don't see this bag here. For everybody that attended a meeting since January, including today, and then everybody who has a permanent or a paid membership today, then I have a ticket in there for everybody. And we're going to pull those 4 out, and we give $100 Apple gift cards to those people.
Whoa.
So, CapMac people, thank you for. Okay, I'm going to pull one. Charles Marintet.
Hey, Charlie, congratulations.
Thank you.
Gary Vogt. He hasn't been here for a long time, but I know he's still a member. Okay. Oops, that's not. Steve A. April. Is he still here? No.
Here earlier.
He was there earlier, yeah. And one more. Lyman Johnson. He's not here either tonight, but
Not here tonight.
he is a member. So Alan will send out a Apple gift card to each of you. And thank you for attending tonight.
Yeah, and once again, I really enjoyed the joint collaboration between our two groups. I always find the meetings to be more interesting when we've got a bigger group of people collaborating.
Yes.
Yes.
Got more ideas. I appreciate that.
Mm-hmm. Oh, yeah.
Okay,
All right.
guys.
Okay, good night, everyone.
Good night.
There an hour.
Good job.